Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the 2025 Ethics in Action Honors event. On behalf of everyone at Foundations Health and Wholeness, I'm glad you're here. I'm Michelle Hansen, president of the George Kress Foundation at Green Bay Packaging, the founding sponsor of this event. Our founder, George Kress, started what is now Foundations Health and Wholeness. In 1965, he had a vision of making mental health services accessible to all. He was a pioneer in the social revolution of mental health care, advocating for the expansion of community services and supporting clients' needs. 60 years later, we continue to uphold the same spirit of innovation and collaboration that George instilled in our organization. His vision drives us today as we celebrate Foundation's 60th anniversary in 2025. We take pride in our legacy of serving the community through mental health care services. Thank you again for being here. And at this time, I would like to introduce Ryan Good, President and CEO of Foundations Health and Wholeness.
Well, good morning. Thank you all for being here. It's always so good to just see so many familiar faces as well as so many new faces at this event. Today, we're going to be celebrating and illuminating two amazing individuals in our community who are guaranteed to inspire all of us. We are also here today to raise some critical funds for our neighbors who need mental health services but cannot otherwise afford them. This year, Foundations Health and Wholeness is celebrating 60 years of helping our neighbors heal mind and spirit, 60 years of hope, compassion, and community. You may have noticed the bee-themed touches around your tables. It's a nod to the heart of our work. I'm a beekeeper, and it's just so amazing to see truly the miracle of what happens with the bees in their community and what they end up producing. It's unfathomable. And so really what we see is that every piece of the honeycomb represents a story, and together it represents a thriving community. And so you'll actually even see a honeybee mural outside of our front of our building. Please feel free to take one of these items today as a reminder of the impact that we make together. One of the most powerful parts of ethics in action is how small acts of kindness or listening to that gentle whisper on our hearts can ripple outward and change lives. You'll find small slips of paper on your tables. During today's program, I invite you to write a short message of hope, a few words of encouragement, compassion, or support, and place it in the container at the center of your table. These messages will be shared with clients at our Green Bay office, offering a tangible reminder that the community cares deeply about them. Clients will have the opportunity to take the message or write ones of their own, helping to spread hope forward. Did you know that at Foundations, more than 45% of those we serve are or underinsured? And no one is ever turned away because they cannot afford care. And that's only possible because of compassionate and generous people like yourselves. Let's celebrate 60 years of healing, honoring those who live their ethics in action and continue building a stronger, healthier community together. As Michelle shared earlier, this event has special connection to our roots. George Kress, who founded what is now Foundations Health and Wholeness, planted the seeds for the mission we continue today. We're proud that the George Kress Foundation carries that legacy as our founding sponsor for Ethics in Action. Yes. Thank you. And speaking of community commitment, we're thrilled once again to have Jones Signs as our presenting sponsor this year. Their partnership helps helps make this event possible, and they truly live out the values we celebrate today, putting their ethics into action every single day. Thank you. Our major sponsors make a major impact for our mental health community. Their support ensures care is available for everyone who needs it. Please join me in thanking Associated Bank, the law firm of Conway, Olenichek, and Jerry, Green Bay Packers Give Back, Schreiber, and U.S. Venture for their incredible partnership and generosity. We're also deeply grateful for our supporting sponsors whose partnership help us expand and reach and strengthen our programs across the region. Thank you to Aldo Leopold, Amerihart Foundation, Berner Schobers Associates, Capital Credit Union, GLC Minerals, Greater Green Bay Community Foundation, HEP Capital Advisors, Kruger's International, M2 Technologies, the Negretti family, and Robinson. And then to our table sponsors, your generosity makes this celebration possible today. Thank you to Creative Planning, Cultivate Advisors, Amplify Health by Bellin, Foresight Benefits and Wellness, Guardian Risk Solutions, Hawkins Ash, Mutual of America, Oneida Nation, and the YMCA. And then this year, we actually had a special opportunity for recipient table sponsorships. And these were graciously provided by Festival Foods and Wisconsin Public Service Foundation. We're also grateful to our media and in-kind partners who bring these stories to life and make this event possible. Our media sponsor, the North Coast Media Group, helps share these inspiring stories each year. Our gift-in-kind sponsors, Delaware North Sports Service at Lambeau Field, provided the coffee this morning, which is what's giving me so much charisma, and Lodge Kohler Hotel for hosting our keynote speaker. All right, and then please join me in just one more round of applause for all of our sponsors whose compassion and generosity help us continue to heal mind and spirit across this community. All right, this morning, I just invite each of you to be part of something powerful to help make mental health care accessible for everyone in our community. Two generous families have pledged a $20,000 matching gift, which means every dollar you give today and through the end of this year will be doubled to help us reach our $40,000 goal. If everyone here just gives $60 in honor of our 60th anniversary, we'll reach that goal together. You can give using envelopes on your tables, scan the QR code, or text EIA 25 to 44321. Every gift, no matter the size, creates hope, and together we can make sure everyone has access to the care they deserve. Oh, all right. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. All right, when we talk about impact, it all comes back to the people who make it happen, our amazing foundations team. They're the ones that bring our mission to life every single day. Could I ask all the foundation staff here today to please stand and be recognized? All right. Awesome. And now it's my pleasure to introduce one of our leadership team members, our Director of Clinical Services, Lana Cheslock, who will share some of the new and innovative ways our therapists are meeting the needs in this community.
Good morning, everybody. What a great crowd. This is literally my favorite event every single year because so many familiar faces are here with us to celebrate and to enjoy the work of our clinical team. As Ryan said, I am Lana Cheslock. I have had the privilege of serving as a clinical director here at Foundations for the last decade. And it is with my honor and my pleasure that I get to share with you some of the hard work and the tremendous things that our clinical team does on a daily basis. As noted earlier, and I reflect back over the 60 years of history that Foundations has provided to this community, it's amazing to me to think back that 60 years ago, we were in a time where mental health care and support was in the form of asylums. It was institutional that took our loved ones away from our homes and from our communities and sent them away. And the lack of compassion that existed with that type of care to today, where we are so far from that, yet we have so many additional hurdles to jump and barriers to overcome. And it is due to George Kress and his determination that he made it his mission to step away from that and to really push the envelope with innovation and to bring our loved ones back into our homes and provide and create community-based interventions. Today, we as Foundations continue to try to live that mission every single day in creative ways. Every one of our therapists is a part of the mission that we have at Foundations, and they provide over 12,000 individual sessions every single year. In doing that, they exceed expectations for national standards. They provide services in the top 5%. The top 5% of mental health providers in reducing negative mental health symptoms. That is a status that just a few short years ago, my previous clinical partner, Julie Feld, had kept telling individuals that that is a stat, don't expect it to stay. It can only go down from here because that is a tremendous number that is hard to maintain. And I can honestly say that our team has maintained that. And with that, I am so proud that we have maintained that level of effectiveness for those in our community, for our loved ones. It is, again, our mission to provide services to all in the community who need genuinely that care and support. And that starts with our client engagement team. Our client engagement team is the welcome to our organization, to every individual who calls our organization or who attends a session and walks through our doors. They greet each individual with a smile, and they know everybody's name. When guests come into our organization, they are greeted by name, and they are provided a warm handoff from that client engagement team directly to our therapists for their individual sessions. We provide those sessions in traditional fashion. As many of you are aware of or think of any sort of medical or mental health intervention, individuals come in through our front doors. We are providing services at our main office here in Green Bay. We have a dedicated therapist in our Appleton foster care office who is dedicated to providing services for those impacted by out-of-home care within our foster care program. We are involved in provide service in 16 different schools from Oconto to right here in the Green Bay and the surrounding area. And we have the privilege of partnering with so many of our local human service organizations that allow us the opportunity to come into their organizations to provide support to those in a place where we can meet them where they're already comfortable. Places such as the ADRC and the Jazz House, which is Journey to Adult Success. Those traditional mainstream philosophies of local and national treatment models are essential for our wellness. However, it is also imperative that we find creative ways to offer support for those individuals who are not comfortable to walk through a clinic door, that are not comfortable saying out loud, I'm struggling with my mental health. So we have fought really hard to fill those gaps in a way that was meaningful, that provided comfort and the possibility of engagement in building healthy relationships. We offer mental health support through social connection and in group settings to assist those who would not be comfortable coming in through the doors to still gain support and access to mental health care. It is ways in which we are able to connect in our community, shoulder to shoulder for men, in groups that engage with an activity that allows people to enter into a world where they feel safe to talk about their own struggles. It is my honor to ask you to turn your attention to the screen so that you can see some of the unique ways that our counselors are providing that extra level of support through very creative ways.
Trauma Center Trauma Sensitive Yoga is the model started in 2000 for the treatment for complex trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder. Trauma Sensitive Yoga is an empirically validated, evidence-based treatment for PTSD. Research showed significant symptom improvement and compared better than cognitive processing therapy, the therapy tested and noted as the gold standard for effective treatment. However, trauma-sensitive yoga showed improved results on symptom progress retention and earlier symptom improvement compared to CPT. I was drawn to trauma-sensitive yoga specifically due to its emphasis on choice-making, interoception, and having a shared, authentic experience between facilitator and participant. The practice can be done in individual therapy with myself or in a small group practice. I developed an 8-week group therapy program that incorporates psychoeducation about trauma symptoms and trauma effects, as well as a trauma-sensitive yoga practice. The group was conducted at Foundations this July with 6 referrals of current clients within Foundations. The group provided participants the ability to feel safe within their own bodies and learn more about how trauma affects their brain, emotions, thoughts, reactions, and body awareness. Their participation in the group helped them connect to their own physicality through their own choice. They developed a sense of control over their bodies and lives. Within the group, everybody may be making different choices about what they're doing for movement. I, as the facilitator, hold space for that to happen by offering choices and giving free will to participants to choose the pace, form, or way they move their bodies. Some quotes from class participants are, "I feel more connected to my body. I realized I have the choice to decide what happens with my body. I understand more now what I've been going through. It's validating to see others going through their healing too." For many survivors, trauma lives in their body in the aftermath of trauma. Trauma changes their brain, nervous system, and stress hormones that keep the body in a prolonged state of defense. Stored trauma can manifest as various physical and emotional symptoms. The reality is that sometimes when we turn toward our bodies, we may feel worse because the trauma symptoms have been stirred up. Trauma-sensitive yoga is a way to bring the body into the process of healing. The intention with this model is to create a space for survivors to explore choice and empowerment in their body through invitation and through a space that is both safe and choice-oriented. People can begin to turn their awareness toward their internal experience. And it's from that space that then they can explore things like interoception, an awareness of what state their body is in, how their muscles contract and engage. The practice involves making choices because trauma constantly drains our capacity for a sense of control. Choice making is about regaining the sense of agency, which is deciding what I want to do with my body. I hope to incorporate trauma-sensitive yoga to my individual clients, offer additional groups of trauma-sensitive yoga to other clients at foundations, opening to referrals from the community, and offering the practice in the local area.
My name is Tyler Robertson, and I lead a therapeutically applied tabletop role-playing group. I received training over several months through Game to Grow to facilitate groups that use role-playing rather than solely traditional therapy. We currently have 6 clients, or players, engaged in a group. I meet with each player and collaborate with them to carefully craft a character to represent them. Their character is built around specific goals, skills, traits, or barriers that the individual player is working on. These goals, skills, and so on are identified and continue to be addressed through traditional individual sessions with their one-on-one therapist. In the group, players role-play as their characters in a wide variety of situations while engaging in an ongoing, continuous story. Each character has a role in the party, which is what we call a group of adventurers, just as each player develops a role in the group. Though the story and characters are fictional, the players and their connections are real. The story we craft together is fun and engaging, but it also forces the characters, and therefore players, to face challenges that include puzzles, riddles, physical and metaphorical barriers, grumpy dwarf patrons, aggressive hobgoblins, entitled dark elf wizards, confusing mazes, traps to be avoided, fears that must be confronted, and even money that has to be managed well to afford rations, arrows, armor, even supplies for personal projects the characters may be pursuing in their downtime. Players come in every week, rarely missing a session, even when they're not feeling at their best. The players show support for one another through personal challenges, sometimes offering practical, hard-earned experience, and sometimes just being present and non-judgmental while their peers share their struggles. Warm-up includes a question about their character's background, personality, experiences, ambitions, and more. At the end of the session, we spend half an hour talking about the story, roses and thorns, which is what went well and what we found challenging, and turning that initial warm-up question onto the players themselves. We have seen and continue to see incredible growth in our players, far beyond anything we expected from a typical group. The unique format and exciting story have created an environment of connection and encouragement at a deeper level, pulling in newer players faster and more completely than a traditional support or skills education group. They want to come in, and they see in a very tangible way the benefits of their work, creating more engagement and motivation in individual sessions, which heightens the improvements they make in an amazing cycle of growth and support.
Every day, men across our communities face silent struggles. The pressure to be strong, stoic, and self-reliant can make it hard to ask for help. Middle-aged men are the most likely group to complete suicide and the least likely to seek help. But what if we could change that? Dudes and Tacos is a trailblazing adventure of connection, outreach, and support. It's an innovative initiative to reduce suicide among men and help them live mentally, emotionally, and spiritually well. It all starts with connection. We create welcoming spaces where men can just be themselves. No pressure, no judgment, just good vibes, and yes, free tacos. Participating in dude-friendly activities and shared meals make it easy to talk, laugh, and build real relationships, because sometimes a taco is the best way to start a conversation. Next up, outreach. We engage in community education and awareness of the common mental and emotional health struggles men face. We host free monthly events where men come together, share stories, and support one another. We connect well dudes with those who may be struggling, creating a powerful network of care. We put the onus on those who are not struggling to reach out to those they believe might be, because no one should have to walk alone. And finally, support. We bring in subject matter experts and those with lived experiences to share tools and insights that help men face life's challenges. We organize shoulder-to-shoulder activities that naturally lead to deeper conversations, and we provide resources from practical handouts and skill building to appropriate community services to help men ask for and offer each other support. Dudes and Tacos is more than an initiative. It's a movement, a community, a lifeline. Together, we're helping men live well, support each other, and find hope. Join the movement, share a taco, save a life. Innovation is actually the first word in our mission statement, and so these are just some of the examples of how, we innovate care to heal mind and spirit, and that's one of the most exciting things about working at Foundations. All right, it is time for the heart of our program. Our Ethics in Action programs celebrate individuals that are creating healthy workplaces, schools, and neighborhoods, the building block of an ethical community. And we're so grateful for Dr. Ben Chan, who is the Associate Professor of Philosophy at Lawrence University and Jeopardy champion, for leading this year's independent research and selection team, which includes Heather Cassidy and Don Schneider. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's my absolute delight to introduce you to this year's 2 Ethics in Action Award recipients. These individuals have made extraordinary impact, and their stories remind us of what's possible when compassion and integrity guide our actions. Please turn your attention to the screens as we celebrate their remarkable work and the difference they continue to make in our community.
What I value in Selena is that she was able to take her talent and lived experiences to be a change maker for our community. She saw a need, a dire need within Brown County, and was able to take her talents and her tenacity to create a nonprofit organization that was going to help address food insecurity.
I started a nonprofit called Rooted In, and didn't really know what I was being called to do, but through a series of building relationships with people in our community and literally showing up everywhere and being involved in anything that had to do with food in our community, was feeling guided towards focusing on food recovery and really as a mechanism to fight food insecurity. The mission is to build a community table. It's a metaphor for nourishing and uplifting everyone. And so improving access to local food as a tool to improve health and well-being.
She's knowing that she cannot do this alone. She cannot run this nonprofit organization by herself. It's going to take the collaboration of other entities within our community to get it done. And she is just knocking it out of the park. She is driven. She's got this tenacity about her that's like no other, and she is on fire. She is truly becoming a household name within this community, and I'm so happy to be part of that journey with her.
Over the last couple years, I've learned that there's no difference between reducing food waste and fighting food insecurity. They play in the same sandbox. So if you can find mechanisms to reduce food waste, to reduce hunger in your community, it's a win-win overall. Once a month, I bring together a group of community volunteers, and we make individually homemade nutritious meals for the community. And we distribute that with our food pantry partners and other charitable food system partners to feed people where they are right now. So we've made over 9,000 meals to this point, and we've recovered and gotten in over 100,000 pounds of donations that we use in those meals. But then whatever we can't use in the meals, we either freeze it, We turn it into value-added products like salsa that we donate to the community. We dehydrate herbs if people donate herbs, or we just redistribute it to our food pantry partners. So I know I pride myself in saying that when you donate something to Rooted In, nothing goes to waste.
Where you start for mental wellness, it starts with being nourished. It starts with having a meal. It's hard to learn or take in information or go about your day if you're hungry. So that's what Rooted In is really focused on, is curbing the hunger, being sure to curb the hunger for food that's just gonna go in a landfill.
No one gives you a playbook when you start a nonprofit. And so it's been the most rewarding and the most challenging thing I've ever done. And I mean, I've overcome a lot of challenges in my life, but the rewards to be able to serve my community. My personal mission statement is driven by the acceptance of my authentic self, to be a change maker in my community, and that is really what drives me every day.
I decided to nominate Selena because her story speaks true to the mission of Foundations Health and Wholeness, and more importantly, to the Ethics in Action. The Ethics in Action recipients, they are role models within our community and help to inspire others. And I felt like she was a wonderful, meaningful candidate for the nomination for Ethics in Action.
I am so honored, I am so grateful that it is just an ultimate privilege for me to be able to serve as a role model for others in our community, and to show that you can overcome obstacles and be a change maker.
Yes, what an incredible story. Please join me in welcoming our first honoree, Selena Darrow, founder of Rooted In Incorporated. Selena, your vision and dedication to uplifting others through connection and community truly embody what Ethics in Action is all about. We're so honored and proud to celebrate you today, and we'd love for you to say a few words if you're willing. All right.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Wow, I mean, this is just simply amazing. For those of you who know me, I am not one who normally prepares a speech, but today is very different. So thank you. I am deeply honored to be recognized with the Ethics in Action Award. 11.8% of our community is food insecure. That means a person doesn't know when their next meal will come from. So look around the room. That would mean 1 in 11 people in this room did not have breakfast. From an ethical standpoint, this is simply wrong. Food is a basic human right, and we all deserve to be fed. 3.5 years ago, I surrendered and called out for help. I had a problem with alcohol, and I was ready to do whatever it took to quit. The key to my sobriety has been accepting my authentic self. I love myself for who I am, and because of that, I can now give the very best version of myself to my community. This self-acceptance led me to my purpose, which rings my joy bell every single day. It is an absolute privilege to share my passion with our community with a grateful heart. Just over 2 years ago, I heard a whisper. It was a whisper only I could hear. What if I used my life's passion, food, and my lived experience to do something for this community? The devil on one shoulder was like, "You are nuts. You're thinking about starting a nonprofit?" But the angel on the other said, "What if? What if you could help one person?" So I listened and took a leap of faith and started Rooted In. Rooted In is so very deeply personal It is shaped by my experience as a single mom and my career in the food industry. These experiences reveal both the challenges and the possibilities within the food system, driving me to create change in Green Bay. As a single mom, I struggled to afford nutritious food, and not having a well-rounded diet did affect my mood, my weight, and my energy. Those years taught me resilience, resourcefulness, and the value of community support, lessons that now guide Rooted In every single day. In the food industry, I saw waste, inefficiencies, and the potential for food to empower rather than just sustain. This disconnect between abundance and the need felt solvable, and that's what sparked my vision for Rooted In. Rooted In bridges that gap by providing access to nutritious food. It is about fostering wellness, dignity, and sustainability while building a local food system that uplifts all. Every program, every partnership, and every meal reflects this mission to build a community table where nutritious food is a right and not a privilege, and where everyone feels equally rooted in. It is my personal journey of overcoming adversity that most shapes my vision, and that anything is possible if you believe it. Rooted In has been built literally from the ground up, not out of charity, but from a place of purpose and heart. Through this work, I've created programs that blend food waste reduction, culinary literacy, and health equity, always grounded in compassion, resilience, and empowerment. Feeding our community is more important now than ever. Just a few weeks ago, I met a mom with several young children. She was just like me, working hard to provide for her family, but still struggling. Meeting her and helping her keeps me going on the hardest days and reminds me that what I am doing is the right thing. With changes at the federal level and the defunding of programs like SNAP Ed, many families face increasing barriers to nutrition. I advocate for those whose voices aren't as loud as mine. Every meal I provide, every pantry I run, every recipe I create, every last cherry tomato recovered from going to waste, each one helps fill that gap, restore dignity, and remind people that they belong and that I care about them. I want to take a moment to give thanks to the Ethics Committee, Foundations Health and Wholeness, Deb Polster for nominating me, my grown daughter, the best gift I've ever been given, who inspired me to never give up on either of us, to my parents, my siblings, my husband, friends, and the incredible volunteers, several who are here with me today, who have supported me and stuck by me on this journey. Thank you for believing in me, in this mission, and helping me make it possible. Together, we can nourish, building a stronger, healthier, more equitable community for all. There is a seat for everyone at my community table. I invite you all to join me. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Selena. It's been wonderful to illuminate you, who you are, and what you're doing in our community. And now, please join me in celebrating our second honoree, Keisha Claus, founder of Her Alliance.
My name is Keisha Klaus. I am the founder and executive director of Her Alliance, a new local organization that was established in May 17th of 2025, so very new. Our mission is to increase awareness and education around the issue of commercial sexual exploitation as well as sex trafficking. And so we do that through our survivor advocacy by raising awareness with prevention. And so we know how important prevention is in eradicating this issue, but then also community partnership. We know this isn't just a Her Alliance issue, it's an issue that we want our whole community to get involved in.
She saw the needs in the community, catered to what they needed, and was able to then make the program something that was needed here. And has done just amazing things with getting the word out into the community of what trafficking is and what it isn't, and some of the myths and how we should educate the community on what do we look for, how do we help these people, how do we ensure that we're working towards eradicating this.
So my experience actually started not with direct services, it was more in the legal system. And so first working with survivors of commercial sexual exploitation, I saw more of the courtroom setting, which also allowed me to believe that the arresting of the perpetrator really was the sole solution. And now I've realized how completely wrong I was, and it's actually something that most people believe. But unfortunately, that's the tip of the iceberg. True systemic change comes in dismantling injustice, but then also being able to address an issue that stays hidden. And so what we know is most people don't realize what this looks like on a local issue. So how can we see what it looks like in our community and truly address it?
I nominated her because of her dedication to the work, the response the community has to the work that they do, and just the community support that they have gotten in the education they have done. I think so many people are misinformed about trafficking and what that is and what that means, and I think her work and her efforts have just done amazing things with getting the word out there and doing good for the community.
Very honored. Going into nonprofit world, you're not going in with the thought you're going to be recognized or honored in any way. It truly is. You have a heart for a mission, and you want to see a gap filled in your community. So when I got the call that I was nominated, I just am so thankful for people like Jackie that not only encourage you in the work that you're doing, but go above and beyond to nominate you for such an impactful award.
The understanding that they have brought to the area, as well as the assistance that they're helping the people that are involved in the trafficking, and help get them out, and understanding that people sometimes go back to it and have to come back out, and having that support system each time is so important. And I think without that, you're not working on the mental health aspect of how we can help these people.
Serving others has been one of the most rewarding and grounding experiences of my life. Having the privilege to walk alongside the survivors we work with, volunteers, our community, it's allowed me to see the resilience and the courage and just the power in human connection. Sometimes it seems like a sole effort, but that is far from it. This was always a group effort. Behind the scenes, we had community partners that walked alongside of us, survivors that trusted us, and a community that believed in us, and donors that believed in us. So it's through that group effort that we really have been able to make the impact that we make. And what I've come to learn is that one person's vision won't make that lasting impact. It truly has to be a collective commitment.
Her dedication and her willingness to do new things and come up with new opportunities and cater to what the needs are up here, as well as her ability and her team's ability to work with other organizations and other people, has just been phenomenal and an invaluable resource to young women and any women up here.
We always say you can be a part of our organization as little or as much as you want. And so really, at what capacity are you able to join? Is it volunteering? Is it by financial support? Or is it just having a hard conversation, bringing light to an issue that is usually hidden? And so through that collective effort is where we're going to establish this lasting impact on eradicating commercial sexual exploitation.
Keisha, your work empowering women and building networks of strength and support is deeply inspiring. You've shown what it means to turn compassion into action, and we're honored to recognize your impact today. And we'd love for you to say a few words if you're able.
Well, I don't know if I want to thank Jackie or kind of punch her in the face right now. No, thank you guys. Thank you to Jackie. Thank you to Foundations. Honestly, Foundations was one of our first community partners. So this is really just inspiring to see the work that they're doing in the community. Thank you. I'm humbled to receive this award, but I accept it alongside everyone who has helped hold me accountable, to everyone who has encouraged us along this way and supported Her Alliance from the very beginning. First, I want to thank God for putting this passion in my heart and also giving me the determination to see it through. Human trafficking, sex trafficking, especially in Green Bay in the state of Wisconsin, is an issue that is not addressed enough. To our incredible Her Alliance team, you guys make doing this work look easy, even on the hard days. To our community, thank you for trusting our vision and stepping out in faith to only strengthen our alliance for participants. Love to my family, to my mom and my dad who came from my home state of Florida to be here today, to the point where my dad just showed up this morning. I had no idea who was coming. So that was exciting. To my niece and my sister who are here as well, and to my oldest daughter, giving a little nod right now. She is the reason that I started this organization, and she is the reason that I wanted to make such an impactful difference in this world. Her and her sisters are my fiercest cheerleaders. To my supportive husband, who probably has high blood pressure because of all the crazy ideas I have and everything I rope us into, you have been in my corner always. Ethics is simple, really. It's how we treat other people. It's the everyday, small choices that we make that create impact, strengthen communities, and build trust. It turns our values into action. So today, I admit my imperfections, because what ethics is not is perfection. It's promising to be better tomorrow than we were today. I'm grateful to each one of you reminding me why this work is so important. And I hope we can continue to challenge and empower each other and only set the bar higher for what ethics and action truly means. Thank you.
Thank you again to our incredible honorees, Selena Darrow and Kesa Claus, for reminding us what it looks like when compassion and integrity come to life. Your stories truly reflect ethics in action. Let's give one more applause to our honorees. All right, now it's time for our keynote speaker. As we continue to celebrate ethical leadership in our community, it's my pleasure to introduce Tom Farley, who's an advocate, storyteller, and mental health champion. Tom has dedicated his life to breaking down stigma surrounding mental health and addiction. His story reminds us that healing begins when we choose empathy and speak openly about what so many face in silence. Tom actually came to our Dudes and Tacos event last night, spoke with a group of guys, and just modeled what vulnerability looks like, and then also just the emphasis on connection and community. So, Tom, we're happy to have you here today.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, last night was really, it was wonderful. This was kind of a letdown today, this breakfast. I'm kidding. No, I got fed here too, so that was pretty good. But that just seeing that wonderful video of the programming that Foundations does, listening to these great stories of the honorees, I can only think of one thing. I wish I went first. That bar's high now, but I'll do my best. And another thing, it's very frustrating that you've given a Farley a microphone and an audience, and then you said 25 minutes. I'm like, yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. I'll do my best. Anyway, so I like to tell stories. It's the only way to really understand this journey that I've gone on. But I'll start with this, just how I grew up. As I said last night, I better all right, 25 minutes, got it. So I grew up, and as I said, we checked 3 boxes growing in my family. We had a long generational history of alcohol problems and issues that I kind of started to understand more and more as I went down my journey. I was Irish. And I lived in Wisconsin, so I really only needed to check one of those boxes, but I checked all 3 to get where I was. But the thing is, for us, alcohol, it was in all 3 of those things. It was very normative. This is what you did, and as a matter of fact, we thought it was part of our identity. If you're a Farley, you drank. If you're Irish, you're supposed to drink. And if you live in Wisconsin, I don't think I have to tell you kind of what that's like. It's just kind of who we were, and we accepted that. Until and I went out east to college, and I, having grown up in Madison, Wisconsin, I thought oh, this is what college people do, and that was the model, and I took that with me out east, and it's not the model apparently. I think I probably stuck out. More than I thought, but I'm from Wisconsin, and so it took me an awful long time to figure that out, and then there was the event that I like to call it, and I'll tell you, I'll briefly tell you the story. I was working in New York in marketing for financial services, which is, talk about inauthentic. I hate numbers. I hated math, but all my friends were in New York, so I went there. Chris, my little brother Chris, had just done 5 years on Saturday Night Live, and there was a moment in 1997. I'm sitting in a buddy of mine's office that I knew from college at Georgetown, and he lived in my town in Fairfield, Connecticut. And we were meeting, and he had done a lot of work in the entertainment field, broadcasting, and so we let's come up with some ideas that we can have Chris and all his buddies from SNL and do some kind of community event, some fun, charitable thing that would be really fun, maybe, a broadcast event. And we're coming up with all these ideas and kind of who do we know that can help us with this. And this friend of mine always had a TV next to his desk, and he always had CNN kind of running. But while we were meeting, it was muted. And as we were talking, out of the corner of my eye, I see, Chris pops on the screen. Some clip from Tommy Boy, Chris and David. And at that point, I'm pretty used to seeing my little brother on TV. So that wasn't weird, but I turned around, I'm like, I hadn't seen him in about a month and a half. I'm like, what's he up to now? So I turn up the volume. Just as the screen goes over to his apartment in Chicago, the John Hancock building, and the anchor saying, we just learned that the actor Chris Farley had died of overdose of drugs. So that's how I learned that, Chris died. On TV. That's weird. It's still emotional to even talk about it. I'm also Irish. I did mention that, right? Very emotional. And I thought, how do I deal with this? How do I who goes through this? I was very fortunate in one thing I learned, or I figured out if I was going to deal with this kind of pain and this kind of loss, I'm like, I got to talk about it. A very un-Farley thing, un-Irish thing, un-Wisconsin thing even. Like, we bury those things. But it was just so much that I had to go out. And so I went out into schools to talk about Chris's story and hopefully changed somebody's, path, way. But the thing is, the hard thing for me was, like, how do I do that? Like, the only language I knew or was taught growing up was humor. And I got to talk about, these heavy issues with humor. So I had to figure out how to do that. And I looked at all my brothers, not just Chris, but my brothers, Kevin and John, and now my son, who all went through Second City and learned this thing called improv. And I was going into schools, because that's where kids are, apparently. They like to hang out there. And the mission of the buildings I was going into was all about education and knowledge, and the prevention programs at the time where I was talking about were being delivered by people that had that skill set, professional teachers. And I'm like, I don't have anything close to that. But it wasn't about education and knowledge. To me, it was like, we're doing all this stuff, but yet we're still having this issue. I'm like, what is it? And I looked at my brothers who used humor and improv to get attention. But then I did what I do, what I did in the family. I was the smart one, so I studied it. And I learned that improv was developed by this woman in Chicago, Viola Spolin, who was dealing with at-risk inner-city kids, teaching them how to communicate better, how to form connections. I'm like, that's it. And so I've been talking about connection through this improv kind of thing for years. Before I even really understood, I just knew that is the tool to communicate and connect. So I went in, and I did a lot. I helped a lot of people. I think. But all during that time, I had my own kind of struggles. Life was being lifey. I was causing all sorts of train wrecks, and I had moments in my life when I would stop drinking. I'm like, maybe I shouldn't drink, so I would be sober. And I would go to a couple of recovery meetings, AA meetings, and it was just like it was in my family. I would go to a meeting, and I'd listen to somebody across the room, and I'm like, that person drinks more than me, or that person takes drugs and they drink. I shouldn't be here. I'm not that bad. We did the same thing with Chris. All our family looked at Chris, and when you have somebody with that kind of acuteness in your circles, it's so easy to point to that person and say, like, well, we're not that bad. We were, but as long as Chris was the one, we made it his problem, and the worst thing is we didn't do what we should have done as a family. What we could have done is act like an ensemble and helped him out, but that required us to be honest about our own issues, and we didn't want to go there. So, I had this event, and I went through this kind of circle, and I had moments of sobriety, chunks, 5 years here, 4 years there, only thinking I was doing the hardest thing in the world, but being sober, and yet all these kind of train wrecks, and I got tired of it, and so about 7 years ago, actually next week it'll be 7 years, so thank you. I'm not supposed to. If this was a meeting, then they go, yeah, talk to us next week. All right, one day at a time. I get it. When I moved back to Wisconsin, and that was one of the things when my kids got into middle school, I'm like, if I don't get them back to Wisconsin now, I never will. So I moved them all back, and started working with this woman who had a clinic in Madison that was working with teens in IOPs, outpatient, therapy. And I started doing that, work, went from prevention to actually recovery, and that was just life-changing. It was wonderful. but then life went, and we lost touch, and I went on. And I got tired of what I was doing and, you know, how I was drinking. I'm like, had that another moment of like, and I did what the only thing I knew how to do was just stop. And luckily for me, this woman called me up out of the blue. I hadn't talked to her in a couple of years that I had worked with the teens. And she said, I just wanted to connect. And she goes, how you doing? And I said, you know, very proudly, you know, I'm glad you called. I haven't had a drink in 4 months, expecting a lot more applause than I got. And she says, that's great. I'm like, well, let's have coffee. I was like, you know what? I'd love to have coffee, Shelley. And she said, okay, well, meet me Saturday morning, 9 o'clock, basement of the Presbyterian Church. I'm like, damn it. Okay. You know, but it's that one, it was this person I've seen help so many people in our community. And how do you say no to that person? It was my first experience of surrendering to a higher power. It was Shelley. And so I said, okay, I went. And my first thought was, really, the rest of my life in basements with these schmucks? Quickly learned, like, God, I hope so, because I stopped listening to that person drinks more to, oh my gosh, I've had broken relationships like that person, I've had job loss like this person. And it's not about drinking. I just needed the clarity of sobriety to work on all these things. Like, as I said last night, one of the first things that blew me away was what we talk about is rigorous honesty. And you know, at that point, I worked in marketing in PR, and I was Irish, so I knew the gray areas of honesty. You know, I know how to kind of craft a story, but rigorous honesty, like, oh wow, that's a thing. So I did that, and then I started to do something really different, and that was I stopped telling somebody else's story and started telling my own. And I got something that I wanted all my life, which was connection. Because before, I was putting out to the world this person I thought I needed to be, you know, that they wanted me to be, and I got really good at kind of crafting this person. And then social media came along, and it became really easy to like, look how great my life is. And it wasn't real. And I used to tell a story, and I know this was true for Chris, but for me, I could be in the middle of a room, okay, usually a bar. I can be in the middle of a bar, surrounded by people, center of attention, making everyone laugh, and yet not feeling more like I was standing on the surface of the moon. I'm giving them all the stuff and getting all this attention, but that wasn't me. And why aren't they seeing this? I didn't know who that was. It just felt uncomfortable. And the only way I knew how to do that and to manage that uncomfortableness was to numb it, you know, drown it. And when I started stepping out into this, you know, being rigorously honest, you know, understanding gratitude and humility, and the vulnerability it took to work on those things. Again, you know, one of the things last night it blows me. It's like, especially when you're talking to men, like we're not wired that way. You know, the playbook I got from my dad didn't have a chapter on vulnerability because we're not supposed. That's just not how we're wired. You know, but you read one Brené Brown book and it's you're toast. And I did. And I'm like, wow, okay, she makes it sound so easy. So I did that, and yeah, painful at first until it's like, oh my God, it's just all of a sudden the connection I had. And so I realized that this person I was putting out to the world, that person could never be rigorously honest or grateful or even humble because that wasn't a real person. Only I could be that. My authentic self could be that person, but I didn't know who that was. On top of that, I was like, what's if they don't I don't like that person? And I had to push through that initial pain and fear that vulnerability has to all of a sudden like what I got back in return for doing that work and feeling that uncomfortableness was connection. It was amazing. And so, and one of the things I say about that is and I stole this from a buddy of ours from high school, who talks about innovation this way, and I adapted it to recovery. I'm like, recovery, as I like to say, recovery exists on the other side of fear. And you just gotta get over that. And what an amazing, because I spent a whole life with so much fear, so much self-doubt, and which kept me in isolation. And I was never gonna get out of that and beyond that fear, as long as I was in isolation. And another favorite saying of mine is that what I learned in recovery and telling my story, hearing other people share, tell their stories, is like, we tell our stories because we cannot heal in isolation. It demands connection. And the more and more I became vulnerable, trying to find this authentic self, sharing my story, hearing other people's stories, I'm like, oh my God, why am I feeling differently? It's because I'm connected. And so I started to do that. And I'll tell you one story. So, and I started to see that everywhere I went. One of the things I love telling, it was a couple years ago, I was asked, somebody approached just out of the blue, kind of contacted me. It was like, do you ever talk to recovery groups in prisons? And I'm like, no, why? What's that got to do with me? Like that, no. And then, but it also, at the same time, I realized I had done so much work on the stigma around addiction. And I had to ask myself, it's like, am I carrying around, maybe not stigmas, but opinions or whatever about prisons and the people in them? I had to honestly answer probably, and that may be uncomfortable. So I said yes. I'll come in. And then this prison talked to that prison. Next thing you know, I'm on a tour of prisons. And it was wonderful. It was, and again, I walked into everything, and I'm like, I went to these guys, I'm like, I'm not here to, talk to you, motivate you, whatever. I'm here because I'm in recovery, and this is where I need to be and who I need to be with, and let's just talk. And it was great. But when I finished that, like 6 months after that, I was up here in Green Bay at a gala like this, talking. A friend of mine that runs a couple of sober living up here, Mandolin Foundation, and she asked me to speak, and I did, and it was a lovely event. Afterwards, this kid comes up to me, khakis, polo shirt, nice haircut, and he said, "Oh, that was a great speech." I was like, "Yeah, I know." And he goes, I've seen you before. And I'm thinking, like, you're high school or whatever. I've done so many things. You're some other community event. I go, oh, that's great. Where did you hear me speak? And he goes, about 8 months ago, 9 months ago, I was in Red Granite Correctional, and you were there talking to me. And like, you? But you're in khakis and a polo. And I go, yeah. And he goes, yeah. And now I'm out. I have a job. I have a roof over my head. My family's talking to me again. And I'm like, shit, this is why I did this. Because and I tell this ever since the story, for this reason, I tell this to every group I go to, is like, you have to experience it, and I know a lot of you in this room have. There is nothing like the sight of a healed human. Nothing. And, we need to see that. This person who, their family, he said, my family wrote me off, my community wrote me off, a couple of employers wrote me off, I wrote myself off, and here I am doing these great things, and I'm getting all these things back that I didn't think were possible. And we need to see that. There are people walking around us doing amazing stuff that we just don't even look at, or even if we have, we've written them off. And like, no, they need to be part of our ensemble. They need to be part of, we need to care about and see them. That's community, like I talk about our ensembles, we talk an awful lot about teams, and it's great that I'm here in this amazing, monument to teams. And we're taught, be a team player, and be good. Who are your teammates? I go into places now, and I'm like, you know what? Forget teams. I said, forget teams, because on teams, not everyone matters. I always repeat that. On teams, not everyone matters. When the offense is on the field, does the defense matter? No. Because teams are great. Everyone has a role, and they're trying to win a game or build a product or deliver service. Teams are great for those. But the best teams are the ones that built the ensemble first, where all these different instruments, is the tuba the best instrument in an ensemble because it's the biggest, shiniest, deepest voice? No. If everyone's playing to the 100% of their ability and capability and reward and acknowledge and reward for that song is beautiful. Even if one person, all they can do is hit that chime once, but at the right time, with the right amount of effort, at the right moment, that one note sound, which is 100% of what they can do, is beautiful. If we keep thinking of teams, we end up kind of evaluating people by talent alone. But everyone plays a part in our ensembles. And it reminds me of, right after COVID, there was a Surgeon General report. And I got to say, it's probably one of my favorite Surgeon General reports. I'm kidding, I've only read that one. I skimmed it. But it was called the Epidemic of Loneliness. And it was right after COVID. And they did all this work on how, what did we just go through? How did this affect? And what do we need to do? We had this, everyone in the world went through this thing. And we need to build back, it said, we need to build back this sense of belonging in all of our places. When I started my career, there was all this talk of work-life balance. Actually, that made a lot of sense to me. You're at work and you do this, and then you go home and you do this, and it's up to you to figure out the balance between the two. But that's not it. But you know why? Because I'm not a different one person here at work and a different person when I get home. I'm the same person. We need to build environments that welcome in people with all of their otherness to wherever they go, and welcome them with a sense of belonging. And the amazing stuff that comes by, we othering people, just doesn't work. We're humans. We need that connection. And the most interesting, amazing ensembles are the ones that welcome in everyone with we all are carrying around some level of otherness that we bury and hide, and no, that's what makes us. And so find those ensembles. When I grew up with a notion of my tribe, and my daughters are like, you don't use that word, do you? I'm like, would you just hang out? Just stop with it's okay. They're teaching me. But my tribe was everyone that went to school, grew up in my neighborhood, went to the same schools, went to the same church, same country clubs, whatever. And my tribe certainly didn't have tattoos. My tribe certainly had all their teeth. You know what? They not anymore. My ensemble has a lot of tattoos now. Not all of their teeth. And I love them. I'm connected because I feel like I belong. I needed that all along. And so it was, how are we doing? Good. All right. So it was that connection that I go out and I talk about that, all the time, and I do that, of connecting, and I do that by sharing my story, hearing other people's story, and what was really neat, and I first got a glimpse of this, when I wrote my book, my biography of my brother Chris, it was a New York Times bestseller. I don't think that was mentioned. But if I wrote it just my recollection, it wouldn't have been the nicest thing. You know, like I had to share a bedroom with this guy. Like I had a lot of therapy that I had to go through. No, I did it by interviewing all these people that we grew up with, that we went to summer camp up in Minocqua, you know, all through our summer, that we went to college with at Marquette, Second City, SNL, Hollywood, all these people. And I'm reading this stuff. I'm like, they knew Chris better than I did. Because they were seeing different parts of him, and I'm like, I have a better relationship with my brother now than I ever did when he was alive, because of you know, I get that, and I get to separate this brother that had an addiction from this brother that I love. I get to like, because if we don't, like I carried all of that around with me for so long, and at any given time it would be, you know, a good thought versus a bad thought, or somebody would like, you know, would come up to me and, oh, I love your brother. And my standard response was, you didn't have to share a bedroom with him. You didn't have to go to high school with him. That was bad. Just knowing he was in the building. But now I get to separate those things. I understand. I have empathy for this person that's struggling, this person that wanted to, you know, do what I'm doing right now. And now I get to not just love, you know, this brother, but it's given me also the grace to love myself. So, I will continue to do that. And the last thing I would say, more than anything, is, and I tell myself every time, like, I go out and I speak a lot, and I love it. I like attention. I think the red glasses should have clued you in. But one thing I learned, and I make a point of, is like every time you hear me talk, what you're really seeing is me healing. Don't think that's not happening right now. I'm very grateful for that opportunity to do that. And the last thing I will say, and I said this last night, and I read a couple years ago also, I read an article. No, it was a meme. I read a meme online a couple years ago that said we are measuring our self-worth all wrong. We're taught to measure our self-worth by how successful we are. And the problem with that is that, you know, first of all, you're measuring against somebody else's success. It's not sustainable. Somebody else is always going to be more successful, or you can have moments of success followed by, you know, it's a roller coaster. It's never the same. You're always chasing that. I know that because I did that. You know, all my college roommates, you know, they're all CEOs now. It's a real pain in the ass. Now, there's no way I was going to compete with that level of success. Now, this meme, it said, the truer measure of our worth is how essential we are to ourselves, to our community. And I looked out last night at a bunch of men that were so essential to each other for different ways. They were just there, just being present with each other, and how essential that is. And now I'm looking out this morning to a community that's and a foundation that is just so essential. And I'm so thankful for that. You know, I like to say I go into a lot of places, a lot of, you know, events and communities, you know, and I talk, and I always say, you know, you really understand and know a community by how they show up. And you showed up, you know. And not just because this is a pretty cool, is somebody getting a picture of me? This is so cool, by the way. It's not, if this was in a tent in a parking lot, you would have showed up, you know. You feel it. And what a gift you all are to this foundation, and what a gift this foundation is to this community. And you know, for 25 minutes I get to be a part of that, and I'm so grateful for that, and I thank you. Actually, No, I got tacos last night, and I'm doing a thing tonight. I hope I'm getting fed tonight, too. This is awesome, So thank you for this wonderful, and thank you for what you do, all of you, whether you, through the foundation or the other stuff, the honorees and all, just amazing stuff. So much more than a football team, this town is, and I will forever tell this story because it's a special place. And thank you. Would you please get me off this stage? Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Really appreciate you allowing us to be part of your healing today, and also just your emphasis on connection and vulnerability and rigorous honesty, even if we are Irish. So really appreciate it. So as we close today, I just invite you one more time to help us reach our $40,000 goal and double your impact through our $20,000 match from our two generous families. Again, if everyone just gives $60, we'll ensure that more people in our community get the care they need and to continue Foundation's 60-year legacy of healing mind and spirit. There are envelopes on the table if you're old school. There are a QR code if you're new school. And if you like convenience, there's the texting EIA 25 to 44 321. Let's give one more big round of applause to Selena and Keisha for creating a healthier community. And thank you all for being here, for giving, and for living your ethics in action. Have a wonderful and inspiring rest of your day. Take care.